Welcome to Jurassic Park.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Why don't we just wait here for a little while?
Do you want to know what it is?
There's no knowing where you might be swept off to.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord, for thee.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
There's a special rug in hell reserved for people who waste good scotch.
He peed on my rug!
He peed on the dude's rug.
Do your worst.
Final report of the commercial starship Nostromo.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the ocean is so delightful. And since we've got no place to go, let it swim, let it swim, let it swim. It doesn't show
the ocean is delightful.
Of stopping, but I got some fish for popping. The lights are turned way down low. Let it swim, let it swim, let it swim. Welcome to your feature presentation, Jaws Talk. That was our Christmas shark-themed Christmas song.
Special musical special. Double special musical special.
In case you didn't get enough, that was from our Wednesday's episode. I thought I'd give another one. We're talking Jaws today, doing a little movie talk. With me, as always, you've heard him already, but his name is Andrew McKay.
Dun, 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 dun. Ever present.
Ever present. Ever ready.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've got Jaws. We love this movie. I love this movie. This is a yearly watch for me.
Yeah. It's not a yearly watch for me. It's been many years since I've seen it.
Hurt my soul.
But I watched it recently for you, Heath.
Thank you.
For Shark Week.
Good. Do it for the Shark Week.
May thy tooth chip and
yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but it's so good. Every time I watch it, I'm reminded, like, man, this is a classic for a reason.
Yeah. I think my favorite thing about Jaws is just the characters and the character interaction. I want to go through this movie, but it's like, to me, I love the beginning of it. I love as it progresses, but then when you get those three guys on a boat, it's just like, this is a whole movie.
Get those three guys on a boat.
Three guys on a boat. That's a movie right there. Just like those three guys hunting a shark and So we're going to jump in and start kind of breaking down the movie, going through it kind of linearly. But I would love to, do you remember your first interaction with Jaws or the first time you saw it?
Oh man, my first interaction was actually with the soundtrack because I was into John Williams before I knew about things like Indiana Jones and Jaws and E.T. and stuff like that. So I'd heard the title sequence or the theme before. I'm not sure when I watched the movie for the first time. I don't know. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. I have we've talked before about how my parents, especially growing up, were pretty conservative in what they would let me watch. So I have very distinct memories of how I watched this. So what happened is it was on TV one time, and then the shark attack would happen, one of the shark attacks. And I think it was on the boat, and it was just like stuff got scary. And then they'd be like, oh, we shouldn't watch this. So they'd turn it off. And then that happened again where TV was just on, and I notice, I'm like, little kid Heath looks over and is like, Jaws is on TV right now. And no one's saying anything. Oh. So I'm watching it for a little bit, and then my parents realize that Jaws is on, and they're like, oh, we should turn this off. It's like, no. So so I remember being like, that just fueled my desire to watch this movie.
Oh yeah.
I have a very similar story to Return of the King that I'll tell you sometime. Sorry, not Return of the King, Return of the Jedi. Watching that when I was a little kid. But so for Jaws, it was such a forbidden fruit type thing. Like, I need to watch this movie. What I did, I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, if you listen to this episode, I go to the library and they would not ID you for renting movies.
Nerd.
Yep.
They wouldn't ID
I was
you.
just-
That's so
I was
funny.
just at the
Oh.
And so what I would do is I would get a couple movies and I'd put like the R-rated ones on the bottom so my mom wouldn't see.
Oh, man.
So that's so many. So I was probably middle school, probably in this age. So that's how I watched Matrix for the first time. That's how I watched Jaws
Whoa.
for the first time. Like nothing crazy. It's just like all the R-rated movies that my parents wouldn't like me to watch or didn't want me to watch. Which
That's such a good story.
Oh, thank you. It's funny because they're so much chiller like about it now. Like we watched Jaws together, when I grew up. But it was just funny because I think they were just kind of like, which as we're both dads, it's kind of hard to be like, when do you show certain things? I don't know if you had this moment, but basically, I was watching like any movie I would typically watch, like me and Emma. And you have a newborn, and you're like, they're not even looking at the screen. Like maybe I'm just holding them.
Yeah,
and it's
absolutely
like, and then there's this moment where you're like, they're kind of noticing the TV. So like, okay, now I need to be conscientious,
We're not at that moment yet. I watched Jaws with my son.
That's great.
And he was playing around with his toys, and it's like on the TV, and when like an attack would happen and the music would get really loud, he'd like look over at the TV,
Yeah.
and there'd be like little people dying,
Mm.
and he'd just look over at me and like trying to hand me a Cheerio.
Yeah.
He was like, "Huh? You want a Cheerio?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do actually."
I'll take that Cheerio. Yeah.
Yeah, lay it on me.
That's awesome.
So soon, probably it's coming around the corner.
I was gonna say there was a moment when I noticed Lucy watching the TV, just like standing there and like actually watching it. And I was like, okay, now we need to do certain things. And I probably shouldn't be watching TV anyways. It's a nice summer day or whatever.
Whatever. Speaking of nice summer day, July 3rd. What year is this movie? 1975?
Why'd you say July 3rd?
Isn't that when most of the movie takes place? July
Oh,
3rd?
you're right. Okay, I was like, it's July 12th. What are you?
It's the day before July 4th. We're closing the beach. That's like the whole premise.
We've got a regatta. Yeah, this is such a fun summer movie because it literally takes. I apologize. I see where you're going. I was like, it's not July.
Dude, have you ever seen this movie?
I've watched it a couple times.
Yeah, you're not a fan.
When you told me, when you're like, you asked me about something else, or like, oh, did you see the new House of the Dragon? I was like, oh no, I just finished Jaws. And you're like, oh, first time.
Yeah. Oh,
as we're prepping notes.
noteworthy.
Noteworthy.
Put it on the calendar.
All right, let's just start going through this movie.
Great.
So, I've got some notes here. I'm just gonna kind of go through. So interrupt me when
Sure.
you're
Christy.
Yeah, Chrissy.
Smoking trash can Chrissy.
So I'm gonna jump before that. Actually, I'm going back in time.
Oh, wow.
No, I just think it's cool. This movie starts with an underwater, like through the seaweed, and I just think that's so cool.
Yeah.
And I wondered, pre-internet, 1975. I wondered, like, that would still feel really cool, like an underwater camera in a movie. I just felt like, underwater cameras had been around for a bit at that point, but I just felt like all these novelties are like, that's pretty unique to have like a movie. Just like, I don't know. It's like as someone who likes even just like now watching YouTube videos of people diving, I'm like, back then especially, it's like that's maybe some people's first time seeing video of underwater footage is Jaws, And I was just like, man, that's so surreal. Okay, so so we've got the opening scene with the party, which we talked about is the skinny dipping scene with Chrissy.
Chrissy.
In our Wednesday episode, we talked about top 10 shark attack movies, and we brought up how she's sitting next to a smoking trash can, as if
which is next to a bonfire.
Yeah, which is next to. So like, okay, your first thought is, oh, that's her fire, but wait, did she bring her own?
Yeah. Yep. She's like, it's a public beach. I can smoke my can anywhere.
This is my fire. So did you know this is a book? This is adapted from a book?
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
At all.
Oh, you didn't? That's cool. This book is called Jaws. It's written by Peter Benchley.
Surprise.
And it was adapted into this movie by Steven Spielberg. The book is, I've read it. I didn't love it. There's 2 books that Steven Spielberg has done that I've read both the books. So Jurassic Park and Lost World were also books. And I love the movies so much more than I love the books.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's mostly the argument is people are like, the movie doesn't do the book justice. And I'm like, these are 2 instances where the movie is vastly superior to the book. There's a lot of differences in this book, and that's cool you didn't know about that, because I'll tell you some of the differences as we go through. So Peter Benchley was the author of that, and he makes a little cameo that I'll bring out.
Oh, very interesting. I love that.
So then we have the party. So then the skinny dipping scene is next, and then the guy is drunk, which I feel like we're talking about this again because we just talked about this in the last episode. But he passes out. She gets eaten by a shark. Super iconic moment.
Yeah.
The next scene, I love. Or no, so it's Brody next, but he they first talk about the shark attack, and he just writes down cause of death, and he types out shark attack. I just
on the typewriter, But he was like waiting for that news from the doctor. That's what I didn't get, I think, until my most recent watch. I thought he was on the phone talking with the doctor, like about the case or whatever. I didn't realize that he was like, "Hey, you're finally calling me back to tell me how she died," and the doctor said it was a shark attack. So then their interaction later on that little
on the pier,
the car trolley across the river, when the doctor is like, "It wasn't that, just like carries so much more weight." It was like, literally 10 minutes ago you were telling me it was a shark attack. So cool. I love that, like that shark attack. Do you think, reverse a little bit, do you think that the shark would have attacked if there were 2 people in the water? If Chrissy had her, what's the guy's name?
I don't know. Chrissy stands out to me quite a bit.
If that dude bro, if Chrissy's dude,
it's quite a haircut he's got.
Had been in the water.
He's got like He's got like long hair and bangs at the same time. One of those, like it's like a mullet, weird rendition of a mullet. Yeah, I'm an Islander. I don't know. I mean, like, it's weird because as the movie builds up, Jaws attacks somebody on a whole beach. You know,
that's a good point.
But yeah,
because he's not a character of consequence. Like, what is the point of him surviving? Is it just to introduce the problem to the main character?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think this is
probably
horror movie basics. You know, that's like kind of it's cool because I think, you know, this isn't the first horror movie, but it's definitely something that like really kind of sets a standard of like you kind of need to have these different kills happen or these different attacks to keep the energy up, which I'd love to talk about one later. It has to do with a holiday roast, but
okay.
Yeah, so Chief Brody gets the call and then he goes to the office, and that's when he gets the call from the coroner, and he's like, reason of death. And then so it was interesting because that kid who's like talking to him doesn't care. It feels like he does not care at all. And I think they're alluding to that, like, he just met her last night. But it just, like, it's so funny to me that this, like, he's like, look, I reported it to you, didn't I? And I'm like, this, at that point, they're like, maybe she's just missing.
Right.
But then it's...
So he's like, I didn't kill her.
Yeah, it's like, look, I reported it to you. And this starts off the trend. This movie, for some reason, maybe you know why, but they keep bringing up the fact that they're not from here. Brody and his family, they're not from here. And there's a lot of talk about being an islander. You have to be born on Amity Island to be an islander.
Yeah.
It's like, and then like on the beach scene later on, Helen is like, well, when do I get to be an islander? And she's like,
yeah, they're
never,
like, you're not.
Never.
You're never going to be.
They're like friendly about it, but it's like, you can never be an islander. You're not born here. You're not an islander. Like, there's a very big, like, us and them kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think that is? Like, why do you think that is so important? Because it's brought back several times.
The us and them, I think, in the large context, is islanders are people who live here, and other people, everyone else, are the tourists that give us the money to sustain our economy. And that's like one of the major plot points of the movie is, no, we can't close the beaches. No, we can't do this. No, we can't do that. Because those other people are going to come here to our island and give us money. And we need it. Every summer we need it. And that's how we live. That's how we achieve the lifestyle that we have. So that's why it's such a big identity thing for them, is like our town is self-sustaining because of other people. However, it's important to us that we distinguish. Are you one of the tourists who gives me money, or are you someone who takes money from tourists like me, who like sustains himself off of that, who's here year round? Yeah. That, but also I think what you're talking about, the cop coming into a small town who's an outsider, and he's like, I'm a big city cop, just looking for a chill city to be the chief of. Wrong. I love that trope.
Yeah, because you can tell he's at the big city, and like, I actually didn't even have that in my notes, but it's one of the scenes where I love that he's on the boat with Hooper, and he's like, there's muggings, there's shootings, there's so much crime, you know, that, but in Amity, one man can make a difference, you know, and he's just like, that whole idea, it's like, which I love. I love Steven Spielberg. We both know this. And it shows so much that he can show a character their motivation in natural ways that you don't have a person sitting down and saying, this is who I am. Like, he just shows you like his, like, there, it's subtle because you know he's afraid of the water. And like, it is said to him, but then just like the one, Harry comes over to him and is like, we know about you. Like, you don't go in the water at all, do you? And he's like, that's some bad hat, Harry, you know? And he's like, but it's cool that like we're learning. It's like, hey, he doesn't like the water. He wanted to get away from crime. He's trying to have a peaceful life, like a 2-cop town. And there's an influx of people during 4th of July, during summer. So we bring in extra, extra cops, like, but they're part-time.
Extra deputies.
Yeah. So it's just like, it is cool. Like, yeah, the guy who's doing that, and then like is kind of afraid of the water. And one of the great lines is, "Well, it's only an island if you look at it from the water." And Hooper's like, "That makes like, a lot of sense."
Kind of crazy that a man afraid of water would move to an island.
Yeah,
it's only an island if you look at it from the water.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, one of the first times, actually the first time that we meet his character, I noticed that Steven Spielberg was doing that. Was like adding in everyday conversation so smoothly to tell us more about him and his family. When they wake up in bed and it's slowly panning out to reveal them. And she's, I think she's laying there and she's like, one of them, I think he says, man, the sun wasn't shining in here like this when we bought this house. And she goes, yeah, it was fall time when we moved here. Now it's summer.
Yeah.
That's what happens. And he was like, yeah. And then he gets out of bed and you're like, oh, they're like super new. Maybe 9 months max.
I was going to say,
and that's so much better than like, oh, well, happy 9 months of living here, doll. You know, like.
I love that. And then they go right into the accent thing. It's like, where are the boys? Like, probably in the yard. It's like, in Amity, you say yard. Well, I'm going to go in the pack. Like, they kind of make fun of the local accent. And so already with that short scene, they're new here and they didn't grow up here. So this is not like moving back to my hometown. Like, this is new place. I was like, it's so good.
Yeah, it's really
Steven
good.
Spielberg is actually he's a pretty good director.
Don't sleep on Steven Spielberg, everyone.
So then we've got so much of the businesses talking at this point. So they go into, like, he's trying to get the shark attack thing going, like, hey, don't go on the beach. It's like, we don't have any signs for that because this has never happened. So it's like, I got to go make my own signs. Have Polly do the printing. What's wrong with my printing? Have Polly do the printing.
And
then he goes in there and there's a guy upset at the store. He's like, you don't have anything I ordered. It's like you said this is 6 weeks out. Like the summer will be over. Like there's so much emphasis on getting money from summer.
Yeah.
people.
August, the summer's over in August. Yeah.
And then so we have the mayor with the suit that I want to own because it's got. Did you see? It's got little anchors on it. It's like a light gray suit, and it's got little tiny anchors on it. And he's like, Chief Brody, Chief Brody. You know, it's like, so this is
the way he grabs his arm to get his attention.
Yeah.
It kind of weirded me out. I was like, well, what?
Okay, so this is where some book stuff comes in that they don't put in.
Oh,
here.
cool.
So in the book, I can't wait to see your reaction. In the book, there is a mafia connection with the mayor that he's being pressed. Yeah, he's being pressed into like keeping the summer going. He's got like some debt / like the mafia is connected to this island, so that's the reason why like he's more hardcore of like we need this to work. And it's just funny because I'm like, I think that's the whole reason they cut it is because like you don't need that. Like a mayor of a small town is like, we are a vacation town. We need to be available for vacationers in the summer. Like that's enough motivation. Like you don't need like dude, the mafia like is coming after me.
What are these outside pressures on him?
Yeah.
Who is telling him he needs to be open?
Yeah. And so it is funny because like I totally see why they cut it, but I love your reaction to it. It's like, well, it's actually the mafia.
There's like
leaning on this.
There's a prologue of him losing like the whole city fund in like a game of blackjack.
They raced for pink slips on cities, and he lost. Yeah, like, me and my dad built this town, and we for pink slips. A little Fast and Furious reference there. Oh man, one of my favorite lines. Probably my second favorite line. Yeah, second favorite line. I'm going to say it. Is Martin, I don't think you understand the reaction people have. You yell Barracuda. Someone says, huh? What? You yell shark. We've got a panic on our hands on the 4th of July. I just love it. Love that scene.
Crazy. Which is like, that might have been the only actual smart thing he said. Yeah. To recognize that people will have a reaction. Like the same amount of people could die in the same exact ways, but if you say shark, it goes crazy.
Yeah, incites panic.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you think so? Then the next thing is basically like, let's not worry about it. It was one attack, which is crazy because I've been to a beach in Florida where there was a shark attack there. Like it was like a couple weeks ago, there was a shark attack. Like they didn't die, like they didn't lose a leg or anything. It wasn't crazy. I mean, obviously they needed some stitches, but there was like, there was a shark attack here. So there was like signs like, please be wary of.
Whoa.
And even in that, there was not like, you could tell like a lot of people weren't going in the water, you know? So like even the fact of like a shark bit someone, even if it could have been a little shark and just a nip on the heel, whatever, that still made people not want to go in the water, you know?
Yeah.
And then to have someone like in the movie, it's like someone got eaten by a shark.
Yeah. He's a man eater.
Yeah, he's a man eater. So then, well, actually, then they amend it, right? So then the next scene is he's like, you'll stand by that. Like, we'll change it to, it was a boat propeller.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, it could have been a boat propeller. So like, they're like, it was probably a boat. So then the next thing is on the beach. So Brody is the one that's like, his gut is telling him, this is a shark.
Oh, I love this scene. Yeah. This is amazing.
Sing me the song, but I just want to ring out that that the dog's name is Pippin. I think in 1975,
I did notice that.
There's a only Lord of the Rings reason why any dog would be named Pippin, and I find that delightful.
And that was probably a very niche reference to be made. Not everyone would know that.
Pippin. Well, here's the thing. Pippin. So I was thinking about it too, and like, how would you have been a nerd in 1975?
Dune and Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And if you play D&D.
Well, D&D wasn't until 77.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. Which the only reason I know that fun fact is because I am a nerd. And I was like, 77 was a great year because Star Wars and D&D came out. Wow. And there was one other thing I can't remember. But It's like
You were born.
I was
in
born in
77.
it was my 25th birthday, so
Oh, okay. Basically reborn.
reborn. So yeah, what do you love about this scene on the beach?
I love there's a really stark double focus that Steven Spielberg does. Steve that Steve does when his neighbor comes over to him and he's talking. He's like, "Hey man, hate to bother you with like work stuff, but you know, like on our road, there's these people that park there, blah 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 blah." He's like trying to like put his in with like, my buddy is the chief and I can pull some strings and get these people to stop parking on my road.
Yeah.
That is happening like right in front of his face while he's double focused on the water and what's happening in the water. And the actual fact of like to choose to do that from a cinematography standpoint of like having in focus someone's face up close and also in focus the far background always is a big attention grabber, but it also helps us as the audience feel the duality, like the pull of his attention, because our attention is being pulled in both ways. We're trying to watch the water because we know there's a shark in there. We're also kind of at least a little bit curious what this guy is talking about. But every time we tune in, he's talking about parking and cars, and then we tune back out, and that's exactly what he's doing in the scene.
Yeah.
And I just think it's perfect. So there's that. And then once I think someone yells, "Shark!" because it's like ends up being that little kid with the fin. They do my favorite, what do you call it? My favorite shot, my favorite like technique for movies. It's called a boom zoom. Do you know this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love them. Every time I see one, I do like that Leonardo DiCaprio like whistle, like,
Yeah.
look, there it is. Yeah, they do a boom zoom with his face.
So yeah, describe
like-
what that is for those.
So it's when the camera, you can go about it both ways. Typically, it's camera's really close. Let's see. Yeah, really close to the subject, someone's face. And as you're backing the camera up, you're zooming the lens in. And so the face, like the focal point of the shot, is staying in focus and in center the whole time. But you get this weird, like, bending, relax, like, look of all around it. And it kind of tends to elongate the face. It goes from flat and taking up a lot of space in the front to squished, and like it brings out the points in the face. And it's such a cool way to signify like realization or like a really scary, like something's washing over you. A lot of horror movies will use it, especially for like hallway scenes.
Yeah.
So I was just pumped to see that. I was like, yeah, Steven.
Yeah, and once again too, they're showing someone reacting to something.
Yes, his
crazy.
face.
Yeah. Which they do.
That's such a strength of this movie.
Yeah, showing people react. Or
Yeah, and not showing the shark.
yeah.
I think that's my favorite thing.
Yeah, it's tough because I've heard them talk about it a lot, and some people say it's pretty known that the shark didn't work a lot.
Sure.
But then I think it is kind of told that it was intentional that they don't show the shark a lot. And I think it's probably
I hope so.
it's probably somewhere both, because that has become such a staple of, you know what's scarier than seeing an animatronic shark is knowing there's a shark there that you can't see.
And not seeing it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that it was intentional. I think it was more intentional than some people give it props for, not showing the shark. Because they also do it with Chrissy. You don't see her body. You see a hand. Like Hooper pulls up the hand once, and also you see a hand like in the seaweed and sand. Because no matter what their prop team comes up
Yep,
with.
I didn't think about that.
Yep, no matter what they come up with for a dead body our brains will always make something scarier. So if we don't see it, it's going to be way more gross. You know, and so then that's another example. They only show the faces of the people who are seeing the body, and they're like, oh God. And it like completely taken back, breathless, going to throw up. And you're like, you're imagining it. You're like, your brain is doing the work for them. I love that.
Yeah, I never even thought about it in that way, because I've always thought about how cool it is that the deputy is like, can't even look at it. He blows the whistle, and then he's like covering his face. He's just like shaking.
Yeah, he turns his back to it.
But then even when they show her hand, we can see that it doesn't end. The arm doesn't end where it should. But then you're just imagining like, oh, there's nothing left of poor Chrissy.
Yes.
And that is so much scarier, and that looks so much more real in your imagination than any prop would.
Way scarier.
Yeah. And it's like, it's also sometimes like, why do we even need to see that? You know, we can know it's bad. Like, we know, right?
Yeah.
So, so then it goes, the kid gets taken. Which the first time I had watched this, obviously, when I was in middle school, and then I got back into it later on, and I remember forgetting that the kid actually dies, because like that's pretty serious, right? And pretty dark. And I'm like,
that's crazy.
Oh, that kid, he gone. This is not a quick shark attack, because a lot of people do. There's a couple people that survive getting like a shark attack, but in the movie, but yeah, he is like spray of blood, fin flips over, he's gone. Then I did think, so Pippin goes missing first, the dog. And I just had a funny thought while I was watching this movie. I was like, what if the guy, after this whole ordeal, like, look at the shark, and then the Brody reaction and everything like that, what would you do if the guy comes over who's yelling for his dog and he was holding the dog? He's like, it's okay, everyone. I found Pippin. He was just over at the hot dog stand.
Hey, stop looking.
Like, he still thinks everyone's like caring about his dog. And he's like, no, it's okay, guys. I found him. Like,
everyone's running around.
Yeah.
He's like, I got him.
It's okay. It's all good. And then so then the next part is the mother lists a $3,000 bounty for the dead shark.
Is that cash or check?
I don't think that's funny. I don't think that's funny at all. I love that lady. She is she's the one that's like, you'll never be an islander, and she's super tan. And I feel like I think that lady just lives there. And they're like, do you want to use her? She's right down there.
Yeah.
I don't think that's funny. I don't think that's funny at all. So then the reporter. So then like Brody talks to the reporter, and it's like, can you take this down? It's like, it's not just with me. It's with the Gazette. It's with the, like, she's basically all over the state. She has like sent out this like thing. So like people know this is like a shark attack. A book thing is that the reporter is a lot bigger of a character in the book. Like, he has some connections with the mafia.
To the mafia?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I think they actually gave like Hooper some of his stuff too. Like, he comes over to the chief's house, and he like there's this whole thing, and he's kind of a nefarious character. But in this, I think I saw him in 3 scenes. But he is just like basically this is the only one he talks in. And then he takes photos later on, which we'll get to that. But I just think that's interesting that they kind of just like got rid of his character.
Yeah.
So then they go into the board meeting. They're like, are you going to close the beach? And then he goes, yes, we are going to close the beach. And then everyone freaks out because they're losing. Amity is a summer town. We need summer dollars.
Yeah.
And it cracks me up because then the mayor goes, only 24 hours. Only 24 hours.
Yeah.
And someone yells.
I didn't agree to that.
Yeah, I didn't agree to that. Somebody yells in the background. Do you know it?
Yeah, say it.
24 hours is like 3 weeks.
I wrote that down.
That's hilarious.
That's literally the only quote that I wrote down for this whole movie is 24 hours. That's like 3 weeks. I was like, oh, you're killing. This is like a Parks and Rec town hall.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, which is, I think they're so concerned about losing money that they're like, that's a long time, but it's still, it's like, what does that even mean? 24 hours? Like
24 hours. I feel like all those people are concerned about themselves.
Oh, yeah.
There's the guys. There's like, they're like trying to make it sound like, oh, it's the economy for our island. No, you want the beach open because you live at the beach.
Yeah.
There is an aspect of that, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's the whole thing, too, is like they're showing us this town is really so consumed with their own. Like everyone.
Because we're islanders.
We're islanders. The parking. I was even going to say, someone else brings up parking as well. Because he's like, he comes over to the chief and he's like, there's a car. And I think it's like, it's that Illinois plate sitting in front of my house. And he's just like, which is the equivalent of, he doesn't belong here, and
yeah,
it's like, man, parking, it's probably tough on this island, to be honest, but
oh man. Yeah.
Okay, so then we are introduced to Shaw, Robert Shaw, which is Quint's character, and he says, for $3,000 I'll find him, but to track him and kill him for 10.
Yep. And he's eating mysterious wafer.
Which I've heard people talk about this scene too, but it's so he starts off, great character interaction. This will probably be on our list when we do an episode on best character interactions. He scratches the chalkboard. That's the way he gets people's attention. And it shows this old lady, and I don't know why, but sometimes you look at people in movies and you're like, that's not an actor. She was there. Steven Spielberg was like, she's got no interest in it. It's the most, like, it's just such a weird face she makes, and it's someone, in my opinion, like, that's clearly
sour.
Yeah, but like never seen their face on video before. Like,
yeah,
that's the face you're going for is a reaction. I don't know. I just think it's like it's a local. She's like, got a nice face, lady.
She snuck in there.
But I wish her well, and I hope she's doing good. But so they, I did. So then they go back to the house after this whole meeting is done, and he's looking through books of like all these violent shark attacks, which is funny because he's going through this book as if it's a like it's a documentary on sharks. It's like he's like, it's a painting of a giant shark attacking a boat, and he's like, oh wow, they can do that. That's crazy.
Wow, I'm learning so much.
And then his wife asks him something. She says, Chief Brody, you are tense. What does she say? Do you remember what she says to him?
I don't. What does she say?
She says it twice in this movie. The exact same line. It cracks me up. She says, want to get drunk and fool around?
I remember, I didn't realize she said it twice. I remember the second time then later on. I thought that was so funny. And he just goes, yeah.
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 That was a really cool scene though too, because I love that exchange with those two people, because they give the kid has a birthday or something, and like the boat is the birthday gift. And he's like, get out of the boat. And he's like freaking out and stuff. He's like, he is not on the water. He is in a boat. I don't think he'll ever go in the water again after yesterday. It's like, they have this whole interchange. And then she picks up the book and she starts looking through it. He's like, yeah, maybe you're right. I'm overreacting. And then she's like, you hurt your father. Get out of the boat. Like after she looks through it, it's like, that's a parental moment right there.
It's like they can attack on top of boats.
Yeah. It cracks me up because, they're looking at a painting of a giant shark eating a wooden boat, and they're like, that's crazy that they can do this. And then in the movie they actually do it too, so we're like, oh, it's true.
Man,
true.
Foreshadowing.
So then the next scene is the two guys with the holiday roast, and they're like, we're gonna catch this shark. It's like, well, like, hey, we better catch something. This is my wife's holiday roast. And it's like, well, $3,000 buys a whole lot of roast, and then they like just chill. It's so funny because I feel like so much of it is like, you can tell it's like ADR'd, like very strongly, just like recorded, like the audio was recorded later.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I don't know. So this is another scene where we don't see the shark. Like, what do you think about this scene?
So keep tell me about it. What do you
Oh,
mean?
just like I think it's cool because this is the scene where they're fishing and then the dock breaks.
Oh, those two
Yes.
guys.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is when I realized that this was a theme, that it wasn't just like in the beginning we don't see the shark, but how much scarier it is that you can show motion, like movement and intention for the shark without showing the shark.
Yeah.
Because this is, in my opinion, this is a weakness of post-Jaws shark movies, is that they show a camera in the water and the shark is swimming around. And they cut back and forth, below water, above water, below water, above water. But a Jaws take for like a shark movie is way scarier if you remain the human perspective. Your perspective is almost always above the water in this movie. And you're seeing something move and you can kind of see it, but really you can't.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it scarier. And anytime, like the barrels, genius idea, him like getting kind of stuck on the dock and like pulling it off and then pulling it with him, it's just perfect. Like we talked, like we said, we talked about some shark attack movies, shark attacks in movies on Wednesday. And even though Under Paris contains my favorite shark attack scene, it also is one of the worst, like, underwater, above water transition movies. It shows so much of the shark all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, let me be scared because you're just showing me where he's at, you know?
And that's tough with modern shark movies too, is because they make them CG, and definitely they look better than an animatronic shark jumping out of the water. But it's still fake, and I think the unknown is like our imagination makes that shark so much scarier. I love the dock, so it hooks on to the bait and pulls part of the dock off, and then like the guy falls in the water, but then the dock is going away, so we're assuming the shark has it still, and it's pulling it. But then the dock slows, the floating piece of the dock, and then it starts going back towards the guy.
Yeah.
So we don't even know if the shark is 10 feet in front of the dock or he's like 1 foot in front of the dock, and it's just like, but we know it's like. And then the guy, he's like, trust me, don't look back, keep swimming.
Yeah.
Swim, Charlie, swim.
Come on, you gotta make it, buddy.
So. The next part is I will talk about is Ben Gardner is talked about several times throughout this movie. I don't know if you noticed this. It's funnier as we go on, but I think we meet Ben Gardner than this time. So I think he's the guy. So this is our Hooper introduction is next. Hooper gets off the boat, Richard Dreyfuss. He gets off the boat and he hands his bag to this guy and he says, he's like, hello to you, young fella, like that part. And I think that's Ben Gardner, and that'll make more sense as we go on. But then he has weird.
Who's Ben Gardner?
He's like a fisherman, but so I'll explain more as we continue. But just know that guy is the guy I think is Ben Gardner.
Oh, right. Okay.
Like that's funny guy. So then once again too. So this is the part where all the guys are going out on the boats to like basically kill this shark.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then, sorry, my notes got a little confusing there. Sometimes I can't read my own notes, and they get a little
classic.
They get a little convoluted there. So they're basically all on the boats, and they're like the one guy's trying to take dynamite on the boat, you know.
And the chief is like, buddy, you can't do this. And he's trying to get that boat with 8 dudes in it to not have 8 dudes in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that was a good, like, about the tourist traffic. Amity is such a high traffic place. All these people are showing up early because of the bounty. And when he says, like, to his deputy, he's like, hey, you know all these people. You got to go reason with them and tell them not to do this. And he's like, I don't know any of these people. These people are from Rhode Island, New Jersey, New Hampshire. Like, they're all like driving in here. Have you seen the parking lot? And I thought that was interesting. Like, just further cements the helplessness that he feels as what's supposed to be the leader of the town.
Yeah.
And he can't control anything.
Yeah. Yeah, which is like, yeah, you get that idea too that like there's so few cops here. Like when something is like everyone's trying to blow up a shark in town.
Yeah.
And it's just like they can't stop that at all.
Yeah.
So then like I love the chaotic scene of all these boats just like motoring around. They're like, some are throwing blood in the water, you know, and then the guy who Ben Gardner, he has this part too where I feel like there's another person that's like, he's not an actor. But he's driving the boat and he goes, oh, they better watch it over there. See, they got that in they wish their mothers had never met their fathers. Boy, I'll tell you something. And there's like, he's like talking to himself. And you're like, does this guy even know he's like being filmed right now? Like, it seems like they're just like, that guy's interesting, you know?
Yeah, that's a weird.
Which they talked about that in one of the documentaries of this movie is like there were so many extras. They got locals.
Oh, cool.
It's like the beach scene. They would just tell locals, like, just show up at the beach. You know, just like, you know, and then they'd be like, they'd have certain parts where like, now everyone run and everyone scream and, you know, and just like stuff like that. But it's like there was a lot, I think, of just like local people being used.
Oh, that's so cool.
So then they bring back the shark. They bring back a shark. And I never realized this for so long, but that I think they tore out all of his teeth. Like that shark, that's why it's all like bloody and like they open the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
I think like everyone's taking teeth out.
Wow.
Once again, unfortunately, this might be a movie where they might have killed that shark just for that shot.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, man, this shark looks so convincing. Oh, it's probably a real shark.
It's like, that looks really real.
Maybe they recycled it. Maybe it was fished. I don't know if you can fish sharks.
Yeah.
Definitely maybe not a tiger shark.
Yeah,
I don't
not
know.
anymore. But maybe it died of natural causes, you know, and they very quickly found it and used it. Like, that's what we'll hope.
Steven, yeah, my man.
Okay. Oh, this is another one of one of my top lines, but one of my favorite lines. It's like, yeah,
Okay.
What kind of shark? What kind of shark is it? And he goes, it's a tiger shark. And the guy goes, a what? What? All right. So then,
I felt very proud of myself. I saw it and I was like, that's a tiger shark for sure. You can tell.
so with the stripes.
And I was right. Yeah, it's by the stripes.
So then, yeah, why don't you talk to me about this next scene? Because then we have Mrs. Kittner come up, right? And then
slap him in the face. Yeah. Oh, man. This is so real. Like, I think there's two motivations for him to be doing this shark hunt that he gets into in the second half of the movie. The first motivation is Mrs. Kittner, that he should have pushed forward and closed the beaches regardless of the mayor, regardless of anyone. He knew someone died, and he didn't force close the beach when he should have. And you see that in him. Like, I think the mayor is like, hey, chief, she's wrong. And he's like, no, she's right. It's my responsibility. I should have done it. So that's what I feel like drives his character into the boat to get in the water. And I think the second like drive that he has or responsibility that he feels is that he's not an islander, but it's his job to care for these people that are very exclusive. They're very like, they seem like welcoming to him, but only to use him as the chief. Hey, my buddy, the chief, can you get this Illinois plate car out of my driveway? Like that kind of stuff. And I think this is him for the first time in this job, stepping up and taking ownership over an island that has not fully accepted him. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because they really didn't let him close the beach. He wanted to, But then that guilt comes
Right.
from he just accepted it when they said no, too.
Yes.
Like, I think he's like,
They're like, why do you want to close the beach? Well, because the doctor he listed a bunch of things, and then the doctor confirmed that it was a shark attack, and then the doctor was like, it's not a shark attack, I take it back. And he was like, you stand by that? Like, yeah, I will.
yeah,
It's just like full out. It fell out from under him.
yeah. Yeah, so it's, oh yeah, I forgot too. I skipped this totally because before this they have the autopsy scene with Hooper, and which I think is such a cool scene. So at this point we do have Hooper saying, this is a shark attack. You know, this is, it's got a huge bite radius. Then they hear about this tiger shark that's been caught, and they're like, this might be it. So they go over there.
Yeah.
I love that autopsy scene. I think it is so good. Once again, they don't show the body; they show the arm.
Yep.
Yep. He's recording himself. The Hooper's recording himself, like checking it out. But he's professional on the mic. But then he's like hesitant, right? It's just done so well. Just like the whole, it's severed between the mid thorax. You know, he's like taking breaths, like, can I have a glass of water, please? You know, and just like doing that stuff. And it's like, and then he's like, and then he yells at Brody for smoking. Don't smoke in here.
Yeah.
And then he gets so angry. I love it. And like this other split, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like he hangs up. Then Mike was like, this was not a boat accident, you know? It's just, I don't know why. I just love that scene.
I think he's my favorite character.
Definitely. Yeah. Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah.
I've heard people say too, because I think Richard Dreyfuss at this era was such a big actor. I think he thinks he's really cool, and I think he is. But I think you kind of feel that in the movie. Like, you feel like he is like,
he thinks he's cool, which he is also.
And he's also cool. So it's like, all right, you know, we'll give him a pass.
We'll let him be cool.
So then he comes in and he's like, yep, that's tiger shark. He's like, that's the wrong one. And they're like, the whole scene of, it's like, we should open this shark and see. He's like, that's the only way to confirm this. And then the anchor's like, or the anchor, I'm obsessed with the anchor suit. So the mayor with the anchor suit is like, I'm not going to have this little kid spill out onto the dock. And we have to laugh at that because it's so sad and dark.
Yes.
So the slap comes. So, yeah. Do you have anything else to say about the dock scene? Like the whole pictures, they take pictures at the dock.
No, and honestly, the second half of the movie, you're right, is its own movie. Like, everything is so different and so
Awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
We're getting there. So, well, actually, we got a couple more, like, until like there are just the three of them on the boat. But yeah, it does feel like the first half of this movie is so multiple characters, multiple locations, and then it just happens to like last 45 minutes is just like three guys on a boat, and it's like it's a contained. It's such like a bottle type movie, just like, I love it. We'll get there though. So then we've got Hooper goes home, really discouraged. My favorite line of the movie. You ready? Okay. So he comes home and he's not eating his dinner, and his wife's like, "What do we do?" And there's just tension in the air. Hooper comes in. He comes in with 2 bottles of wine, and he said, "I wasn't sure what you'd be having, so I got red and white." And he sits down at the table, and Hooper is just like, hand in his face, just like, basically, I'm feeling the weight of all this stuff going on. He's had a terrible week, terrible day. And then Hooper looks at him and goes, "So, how was your day?" I still love it. Delivery is perfect.
And then he opens the wine and starts to pour it immediately. He goes, "You're going to want to let that breathe." And he's like,
okay. Yeah, pours it into like a cup that had something else
with ice.
Yeah, with like ice.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a big deviation from the book. So when this happens in the book, when Hooper comes over for dinner, first off, he was invited to dinner, which we don't see in the movie. It seems like in the movie he just like shows up. When Hooper,
he's just at dinner.
Yeah, when Hooper comes in, the wife, Helen, I think I called her Ellen. I think it's Helen. realizes that this guy dated, I think, one of her friends or one of her, like maybe her younger sister or something. Like she had known him from other circles. And so she was like, you're really cool. And so they like flirt a little bit. Okay, and you ready for this big deviation? In the book, they have dinner, like, or no, they have lunch another time, and then they meet up at a hotel, and they have an affair.
What?
Yes.
No. What? Why?
Yeah, exactly, and that's why it was cut from this movie. Like, it is.
Oh my
It
gosh.
is bizarre. It's like this whole, like, she has this whole journey of like self-discovery and just like, do I love Brody? Do I not love Brody? And like, while the chief is literally like, people are dying on the beach, and she's like, do I love you or am I just with you for convenience?
Wow.
And then,
What if a handsome doctor rolled into town?
right, and it's like, well, it is Richard Dreyfuss, so
That's true.
but then, which that adds a lot of tension and takes all the fun out of the end of the book, because in the end of the book, Brody suspects this has happened. So there's this tension of like, you slept with my wife, basically.
Yeah.
And in the movie, it's just three guys who are just trying to kill the shark, and they're like, they can be on the same team, like
Right.
they discover each other. What do you think about that? Did I wreck your brain with that?
Whoa. That's crazy. I mean, the ending of it, like in the book, does he kind of feel like he wants to push him overboard into the shark? Like, there's this man-eater that we're trying to hunt, and the captain is dead, and there's only two of us left, and one of us recently slept with my wife, and it wasn't me.
I'm not saying I want to kill you, but if there was one of us that I wouldn't hate if they died, big shrug. Which is,
interesting.
which I like the movie a lot better, because Brody and Hooper become basically really good friends in this. Like they're like on the same team,
like
working together. Yeah.
Yeah, when Brody sees Hooper at the end, there's like such a huge sigh of relief, and like they laugh and slap each other on the shoulder, and
yeah, they skip away. Yeah. So yeah, big difference. And I think that's pretty much the only major difference left. But it's so crazy, because of like,
oh, that's huge.
I love the movie, and it's such a good character movie. But then it's just like, oh yeah, there's also an affair, and there's also like a mafia connection, and it's just like the movie is in a weird way, like the book is so much cheesier, and than the movie is. Like, I think they really streamlined it. It's like, yeah. Also,
my man Steven.
do you know the actress who plays Brody's wife is the producer's actual wife?
Really?
Little nepotiz.
Uh-oh. So I see for this part of a young, attractive, blonde woman, we haven't cast anyone. My wife is doing it.
I've got someone in mind. You can say no. You can say no. Why are you taking your money back? I'm just saying you can say no.
Why are you scribbling that check out?
So then we've got the next part where they go back to the shark, who's apparently just laying on the dock, and see what's in there.
Yeah.
And they're basically like, yep, there's no kid in there. This is not the shark. And he's like, you got another problem, Martin, is you got a shark bite, or you've got a shark with a bite radius about this big. And he's like, holds up his hands.
Yeah.
And then they do the night boat ride, which is where they try to find the shark. And like, he's a night feeder. Let's try to find him. And that's when that's when Brody's gets drunk on his wine, and is like, one man can make a difference in that whole part.
Yep. He's like, I'm not going out on the water. I'm not drunk enough. He's like, yes, you are.
I love that interchange. Yeah, yes, you are.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Yes, you are. I can't do that. Yes, you can. Yeah, and then we find out that Hooper is really rich, and then he bought all this stuff himself.
Yeah. hilarious.
Okay, so then here it is. So they find Ben Gardner's boat. So that's the fisherman that died.
Oh.
And so they say, it's like, yeah, of course I know him. That's Ben Gardner's boat. So, like, that's why it links together. So, also, I forgot to mention, when Brody shows up on the dock, he said, did Ben Gardner get this? Like, he's kind of like a fanboy.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
he's a Ben Gardner
Yeah.
fan.
He's like, the fisherman Ben
Yeah,
Gardner.
when they define the fisherman in the dictionary, it's Ben Gardner. So that's just my suspicion, because I'm like, I feel like they tried to push this character in that we should know who it is, but they never say like that's Ben Gardner when there's an actual person talking. So I think that's him. So that's why I just think that's interesting.
It's built-in lore.
Great jump scare. So he goes down, Hooper jumps in the water. He's like, I'm just going to see. And more underwater footage. And he finds the shark tooth embedded in the boat, and he's prying it out. And then a head comes out.
Yeah.
Right?
Ben.
Poor Ben. And so he drops that, because of the scare, he drops the tooth, and he comes to the surface, and he's like, all freaked out. So the next thing is they talking to the mayor, anchor suit away. Do you think
Every time
anchors away? Do you think he has multiple anchor suits, or do you think it's just one?
For sure.
Yeah.
He's the mayor of an island tourist town. He's got to have one for each weekday.
Do you think they're all the same color, though, or do you think there's like a variety?
Oh, he might have like a special 4th of July one that we never see because we're on the boat.
The wrapped in American flags. Well,
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the cartoon Doug?
Yeah.
I always cracked me up as a kid while even watching it, because like all cartoon characters on the show and all cartoon characters in general like always wear like one like outfit.
One outfit.
And
yeah.
Doug opened his closet and there was a whole row of the exact same outfits.
Yes.
Like just like his little sweater vest and his shorts. And it just
I think Timmy Turner did that in Fairly Odd Parents as well.
It's like, this is just my
Yeah, the pink t-shirt.
So then we have the really cool confrontation about they're talking to the mayor. It's like, we did not catch the right shark. It's still out there. It's really dangerous. And they're someone painted a shark fin on the welcome.
Yeah.
And then Hooper's like, this is accurate. That's how big this shark is. And he's like, love to prove that. Get your picture in the National Geographic, wouldn't you? Like, he is such the denier of like, this did not happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about that exchange there?
I think it was interesting because I think the mayor lost it because Hopper wasn't saying, do you see the fin relative to the size of the girl on the poster? That's what the mayor thought. But Hopper was saying, you see how big that fin is relative to us? That's how big the shark is. Like, there's a 15-foot tall woman with a fin that looks like next to her is a small shark, but like that 12-foot, the 10-foot tall fin relative to us is what we're dealing with. And it just totally went over his head, which is just typical for that character. Like, everything you say to him, he's like, it doesn't matter. Money. He's like Mr. Krabs.
Money. Man, I haven't thought about SpongeBob in a while. I'm still thinking in my head, I was like, I haven't thought about Doug in a while. It's just like, we're just going back, all the classics.
Why have you not thought about SpongeBob?
I don't know. It just hasn't been in my brain.
Are you okay?
Well, I mean, should I be watching it more often? Yeah.
Yeah.
How often do you watch SpongeBob?
Of course. Yeah, in my head, reruns constantly.
It's like right before you go to bed. I'm just going to replay that right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so they refuse to close the beach, and then there's an interesting sequence where they're just calling a bunch of people trying to get help. And Brody has a line that I love. He says, anyone with a gun or a boat should get down here.
Yeah. Yep.
And
either of those things will
I was
do.
like, I don't even care if you're trained, you know what you're doing. If you got a boat or a gun,
Yep.
both is better. Just get down here.
Yep.
So then we've got another beach scene with all this, like, they're basically no one's going in the water because of the shark attacks, or because these people have died, which is crazy because I keep thinking like I don't think people would go in the water, even if like there's one kid that has been eaten here, like
it was yesterday.
Yeah, and I'm like, they're all not going in, but I'm like, I don't think they would be at the beach, honestly. I don't like, and then they're like, hey, get in the water, come on, it's fine, and it's just like there was, and I think the mayor even says in the interview, he's like, well, there was a large predator that was apparently injured some bathers, but as you can see, it's a beautiful day, and amity, as you know, means friendship.
Yep.
Like, such a skeevy guy. The reporter that talks to everyone, he's walking along the beach. Remember that guy? That is Peter Benchley, the author of the book.
Really? What a good cameo that he's a reporter.
Well, here we have the regatta. So then we have the false alarm with the shark fin.
Oh, did I put that shark fin way earlier?
Oh, no. So that was the billboard with it painted on.
No, I thought you're probably right, but I think I was talking about the fake shark fin.
Oh, on the other beach scene?
Wait, like the other beach scene.
Yeah, there's two giant beach scenes.
When that boom.
Yeah. That was the real shark attack.
So that was the actual shark. Oh.
So now.
Man. Okay, so now it's the kids.
Yeah, it's the kids. It's like, it was just a prank. And then his son takes the boat into the harbor.
Yeah.
Which I love. They do the whole crying wolf thing. Everyone's like, shark, shark, freak out. Everyone's crazy. It's just two kids. And then immediately someone starts yelling shark for the real shark. And everyone's like, this again.
Like, didn't you hear it was all fake? And she's like, no.
Yeah. And then, which I love because I feel like this is such a dad moment, a parent moment, is the wife says, Michael's in the pond. And he's like, looks down and he's like walking towards the pond, and then he starts kind of like jogging. Like, I feel like it's like, he's like, it's not real. It's like, and then he's like, my son's in there. Like, I'm going to go check. Like, yeah.
So relatable. Like, yeah, all the doors are closed and everyone is safe. You're like, well, I'm going to go check anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think about that part? Like, so you got the fake out and then they go into the pond with the guy.
It made me think, like, was the shark going into the pond area on its own, or did all that commotion, like, spook it into the pond?
Yeah.
So, like, when they pulled those kids out of the water, I was like, someone's going to die because of this prank. And someone almost dies. I don't think anyone dies, but someone almost dies.
Oh, someone almost die. The guy in the rowboat.
Wait, who dies? Oh, yeah. He's like, hey, kids.
Yeah. Which,
you guys doing okay
it's
over
so
there?
weird.
Like,
he's like,
maybe that guy should
you
have
guys
died.
okay? Hey, fellas, you okay? Like, it's like,
hey, young boys, you good over there? They're like, yeah, why?
It is the smallest rowboat I've ever seen. It's like the size of a barrel. And like, also, like, what is this guy doing? Like, every Saturday and beaches are full. I get my little dinghy and
rowing. Yeah. What can you do?
When I used to get in our rowboat, my dad would stand on shore and he'd yell out at me and say, "Hey, quit playing with your dinghy." That's a little.
Did he actually do
that's
that?
That's a Tommy Boy reference.
It's been a long time.
Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
But anyway, I knew that the prank, I was like, this prank that these kids pulled, someone's going to die because of it. Whether or not they pushed the shark into the pond, or just by pulling everyone's attention away from the whole beach area, let the shark surprise those people over there. So, their fault. Whoops.
Yeah, I never even thought about that. Like, that might have even diverted the shark, because he attacked someone with everyone in the water the day before, but maybe there was so much commotion it diverted him elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a good. I think a couple times now I've like asked or hinted at the Jaws shark being spooked away, or like, oh, do you think two people would have like it wouldn't have attacked? I don't think that this is that kind of shark. Like, I need to stop assuming that it can be spooked. nothing can spook this shark.
Yeah, he's ready for the kill.
Does what
Have
it
we
wants.
talked about? I don't think we've talked about this yet. Maybe we mentioned it in a previous episode. So they referred to the shark, like the animatronic, and like that when they refer to the shark, they named him Bruce. Have you talked about that?
I feel like I knew that.
Yeah, so they call the shark
but not for
Bruce, which is why
Okay.
they call the shark in Finding Nemo Bruce.
No way. That's my favorite Jaws fact
All right,
ever.
so it's Bruce the shark.
Hey, Brucey.
Bruce. I never knew my father. So then when they kill the guy in the rowboat, his leg drifts down to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
That's a great leg prop. I'm like, that looks like a
Yeah.
leg. Like,
Seriously.
I don't know why I did this, but I was watching really close, and it hits the ground and like jiggles like a. It's like not like
fleshy.
yeah. I was like, that looks real. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, oh, the shark, like when it first jumps up, doesn't look super real. I mean, it looks like an animatronic, but
Sure.
at the same time, like, man, that was a great leg prop.
Yeah.
We have Michael's scared face when he's just like in terror. Once again, showing the character's perspective.
Oh.
And I was like, man, what did they tell him was there? Like, what are they describing to him?
Yeah. How do you get that reaction out of
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
which is kind of scary. I'm like, I'm sure you know this too, but like, I am very familiar with a baby cry. And whenever I hear like that little kid, his younger brother is playing in the sand, is crying. I'm like, that kid's actually crying.
Yeah.
He's not acting.
That's a real cry. I do think about that a lot with like when TV shows or movies show a baby, like the face of a baby crying. Part of me is like, what did you do? But then another part of me is like, you just waited. You gave that baby 45 minutes and they just started crying.
Mm-hmm.
Like that happens so easily. So the fact that there was a toddler, like a 3 or 4 year old on the beach, they're probably like, hey, we'll just have him play for like 3 hours. He'll cry. When he starts crying, just shoot him for 15 seconds and then, film him. Sorry. Film him for 15
Anyone
seconds.
with a gun or a boat.
Get over here. There's a kid crying. Yeah, but it's that's the dad reflex of like, what did you do? Oh, wait, no. Kids cry all the time.
Yeah, they were probably just, he was like, can I have a juice box? He's like, oh, right after this scene. He starts weeping. They're like, actually, that's perfect. So then we have the scene in the hospital where he's talking to Larry, the mayor. And I love that part because the mayor starts talking under his breath and he's like playing with his, like, he's tugging his lip and he's like, August, we could save August. And he's like, August, what are you talking about? The summer is over. You're the mayor of Shark City. You know, like we're done, you know? And then I do love that.
It's game over, man.
Game over, man. I love that the line the mayor says because he looks at Brody, who is like, get this right, make this right. We need to stop this. Because now Brody is like, I told you yesterday, this is going to happen again. Now it's happened again. Do something about this. And he's like, and he says, he goes like, Brody, my kids were on that beach too. And he's like, I love that kind of transition because he is fully realized, like, I made a mistake and it freaks me out that my kids were there. Because he's like, my kid got super scared, you know, and he almost got killed. It's like, my kids could have gotten killed. Like, he's like, I understand. I am on your side now. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what snapped him out of it. Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, then we've got the hiring of Quint and a great little shark bone boiling factory that Quint has there. Yeah, what do you think about this scene? Just like when they go to meet Quint with Hooper.
This is so like when you see him in the town hall meeting and he has that uneven crease in his hat, you're like, this guy is a character, a well-experienced shark fishing weirdo. And that's exactly what his little lair is.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, you are such a hermit. Like, I love that for your character, but I don't know if I would go to you and be like, hey, you got to help me with this fish thing.
I love it because this is the first time we've seen these three people together, and these will basically be the only people we see the rest of the movie. And there's so many comments but it's like he'll say, oh, like they give him the alcohol, right? He's like, I made this stuff myself. Here's the stuff. Like I made it. It's pretty good. And he's like, and Brody drinks it.
Yeah. He's like,
okay. And then he hands one to Hooper, and he's like,
don't drink that.
And then they make the comments of like, you think you can hang with us? You know, it's like Hooper, you think you're a whatever. And he's like, you got city hands. And he's like, I don't need this working class bullshit, stuff. And I almost swore on the pod, Andrew. We've never sworn on the pod.
Don't start now.
I mean,
we got to charge money.
It is
for
Shark
that.
Week. It's Shark Week. Maybe I'll let him fly.
Uh-oh. Whoa. Let him swim.
There's a cut scene here. Where remember in the scene where you see this like guy following Quint when he's leaving, they'll like, I'll find him and I'll catch him for 10, and there's like a guy that follows him.
Yeah.
So there's a scene that's cut that it's found out that like he's like this Quint's like first mate, and he's like, I'm not gonna go on this one. Like I was like, this is one I'm not going on. Like this is too far, kind of thing. Like this is the one.
Yeah. I also noticed him like helping them load the boat up and stuff.
And so like there's a scene where he's like, I'm not going, because that's when Brody's like, hey, you need an extra or Hooper's like, you need an extra hand because this guy just quit. Basically, it's like, let me help you because I'm also a sailor. And he's like, you got shitty hands, Mr. Hooper.
Yeah.
So then go ahead.
And then his hands are the ones that get cut by the rope later. It's not Hooper's hands.
That is so good. Like cut into like he's cut by like the work, and he's like, that's really cool.
Yeah,
like getting his hands.
This is like his life. Yeah, it's his whole life, and he just puts so much of who he is and his worth into being the rough, gruff fisherman. And we'll get to the end of his character, but. He's the one that hangs onto the rope and should have let go.
Yep. Man, yeah, that's really cool. I never even thought about that. So then we've got they load up the car. Oh my gosh, the boat. It's getting late.
It slipped past me. I was like, yeah, the car.
Of course, they get into the car. All three of them road trip, country road. So then Quint sings farewell and adieu, fair and ladies, and he sings that like 5 more times. The rest of the movie, it's like his theme. And like one of the things I think it's so funny that he looks at the shark and the melody goes off, like the John Williams gives a little like it's like his theme song. So this is the last time you see Brody's wife. So she's like, "What do I tell the kids? It's like, tell them I went fishing." And then she like kind of like cries to herself and then like runs off screen. And I'm like, "What a weird."
Well, she.
Oh, go ahead.
She stops and she like watches him start to get on the boat, and then she hears the fisherman, the Quint, like tell some really crass joke. About like he's singing a song about like 105-year-old woman and when she lost her virginity or something
pretty
like
good
that.
For this vicinity.
And when she exactly. So she hears him singing that song and then she turns and runs and cries. So I think it was a realization like she's scared and her husband just was like, I'm going fishing, like everything's gonna be okay. Gotta do my duty. And then she sees who he is going with, and she's like, oh.
Which, if we ever make
completely
if we ever do an episode on the worst character exits, I think that would make my list because like that's the last time we see her. That's the last time she's in the movie,
crying and running away. Me too, honestly.
I mean, that's how I finish that movie. As soon as the credits roll, I cry and I run.
Yeah.
So I love the shot next. So after the boat starts leaving. It shows it through like a shark mouth.
Yeah, the jaws.
And just like kind of like it's such a cool.
The jaws.
Jaws.
The Jaws.
Which I think is such a cool scene. So so now we've got our 3 boys on the boat and the rest of the movie. I just want to hear so this is like, we've talked about this, but like it's a shift, right? It's like this is a whole different movie now. It feels like it's like very contained, restricted, but like what are your thoughts on this? I feel like I'm talking a lot, and I want to hear some Andrew knowledge. Like
this is, hey man, Jaws is your stuff.
It's my baby.
I love everything you've had to say. Has been just terrific. I think the boat, the last 45 minutes, makes the island feel big.
Yes,
which is saying a lot because I'm pretty sure it's a pretty small island to only have 1 or 2 police officers the entire year, except for 4th of July. But yeah, that's definitely the main feeling. Is like you feel a little claustrophobic. You don't so much feel stranded until the end, or until that engine breaks down eventually. But it becomes more of like can these 3 survive each other, let alone the shark, let alone like their mission? Can Hooper deal with Quint? Can Quint cope with Hooper? And what is Brody even doing here? Like, is he just here because he feels like he has to be? Or like, what is he contributing? He's just chumming the water. What's the point of him being here? But he is the solution in the end. So,
he's like,
it's definitely.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, definitely the best part of the whole movie is the last 30.
That's my favorite thing too about movies, where like the best is at the end. I think Rogue One is such a good example of like there's a lot of preamble and just like big epic conclusion. And there's so much of this, like there's a lot of tension between Hooper and Quint, and I think one of my favorite scenes is when Brody goes to untie, I can't remember what he goes to untie, but he accidentally pulls the wrong rope and has the air tanks roll out. And then he's like, why would you tie it like that? And then like Hooper's like mad at him. It's like, you pulled the wrong one. You mess around with this stuff, it's gonna blow up. It's like, I wonder why they're telling us that. Like Hooper looks at camera. By the way, this is gonna blow up if you hit it really hard.
If you mess around with compressed air, it will explode.
Big wink. But then Quint's like, you got a lot of fancy stuff there, Mr. Hooper, and blah blah blah. Like he's taking Brody's side. And then he leans over to Brody and he's like, Chief, ask me which one to pull next time. Like he's like, he wants to win the argument against Hooper, but he's like, you did mess that up actually. So like, he's like, hey, just ask me.
Next time, just ask. Like, it's going to be okay.
So then we've got the string tension, which I love. So he like, it's such a well crafted part because he's got the fishing line in and he's like looking off. And he looks, and it starts clicking, like as the string is just like moves a little bit, and he just like glances down at it, and it starts clicking a little bit more, and then he like slowly puts like the chair straps in, and it's just like and it hooks in, and he's like he's not even saying anything yet, and he's just prepping, and we're just all like,
it's so cool.
It's just played out so well.
Yeah, and it's like if he says something, if he moves too quickly, he's gonna spook something, or he's gonna jinx it. Like you can feel the superstition in this fisherman, and it's just so cool. Like it really builds the tension well. And I love that scene. Like when he knows it immediately. The first 2 clicks, he goes, "We have the shark," and then he waits still. He goes, "Yep, okay, it's time to get ready."
And then Hooper. So then it's not the shark. Let it go. It's got to be a game fish. It's a marlin. It's a stingray. Whatever. And then the line snaps, and he's like, "Marlin, huh? Bit through this, this cable." It's like, "Don't you ever tell me my business." Like he doesn't prove anything. I'm just gonna start quoting the movie. I'll just recite the last part of the movie. It's like, well, it proves one thing, Mr. Hooper. It proves that you fancy college boys can't admit when you're wrong. So then we have the chum in the water, which we talked about this scene in our last episode as one of our great like shark attacks, like moments is like he's chumming the water and he's like, you chum this stuff. And he goes, then the shark attacks. And then we see him, Brody back up and it's like, you're going to need a bigger boat. That's the moment. Right. So then we have the barrels, which I think are really cool. Just like another way of they shoot a barrel. They shoot it basically like a harpoon and a barrel attached to it, so it pulls the shark up. It weakens the shark so they can get them to the surface. And it's another one that's really cool because we don't need to see the shark for it to be scary, and we know where it's at. And it's like every time he's like, "There's no way he's going to pull it down," and it goes down, and then it pops back up, and it just shows that. Like, I just love that.
It's way better than showing the fins continually, showing the whole shark through the whole movie. The barrels is such a good idea because it keeps it so mysterious, and I was way more afraid of the moving barrels than I ever would be seeing the actual shark, because you mentioned this earlier with the dock, like you don't know how much line there is. The barrels are 50 feet away, but does that mean the shark is on you right now? Or is the shark way deeper, and is he 50 feet down pulling the barrels along? Like, there's so much guess. There's so much you don't know. And that's what makes most anything scary, is just not knowing. It's a far superior way to dunk an audience. Dunk an audience into fear is just to say there's something really scary, but you don't really know exactly where it is or what it looks like or why it's doing what it's doing. Yeah. But it is doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, like I said, it's hard to tell because like there's been multiple stories on like, is it because the shark didn't work that they didn't want to use it, or was it intentional? But it's like the result is amazing. And I think I love that too. So I don't have actually any notes until the boat starts breaking down. They start taking on water.
Yeah.
So we kind of, actually, no, we should talk about the scene. So they radio in, the wife radios in, you don't hear her voice, but it's like, I've got Mrs. Brody here. And she's like, oh yeah, we're having a good time having by dinner. So they decide to stay out on the ocean at night because like he's barreled around here. Then they have the whole scene of like comparing scars. I had a question for you. So, you know how they're showing scars, they're different things that they've done. And then Brody lifts up his shirt and like shows a scar. Like he's got like a scar on his stomach. And like he like doesn't show it to them. He just kind of like pulls it up and like looks at it. And then he puts his shirt back down. Like almost like I'm going to bring this up, or I do have a scar, but I'm not going to bring it up, or I won't talk about, what do you think that means?
I think that scar is the reason that he moved out of New York into the island, moved his whole family. Like, he got stabbed or shot as a cop and was like, I can't do this big city cop stuff. I want to be around for my kids. And now he's in the worst island in America.
Same thing. It's never stated what it is, but it's... I feel like the same thing. I think there was a big story behind that scar that we don't get to hear, but I would say that too. Like there's a reason, and I think his is like, well, I've got a good story, quote unquote, and a scar to go, but it's like I don't want to talk about it, and it's like, well, and then it gets real when they're laughing about tattoos, and then he talks about. He's like, I had that one removed. Quint says, I had this one removed. And Hooper's like laughing about it. He's like, wait, let me guess. It says mother. And he's like laughing. And I love it because Quint just puts his hand on Hooper's shoulder. Just to say like, this isn't something, this isn't funny. Like not as like a reproaching way, but just like, we don't laugh at this. And I'm going to tell you why.
Like, we're moving on, buddy.
And he just says, this was the USS Indianapolis. And then Hooper's like, you were on the Indiana, like it just pulls him in. And then it's such an amazing scene in this movie. He just tells the story of the Indianapolis, this terrible like tragedy that happened during World War II. What are your thoughts on this scene? So we have the monologue of just the shark.
I'm just so glad that they had a true bonding moment before the final climax of the movie. Otherwise, I would have assumed that like one of them would give up the other for their own sake. You know, like if there were like in the book, if there were seeds of doubt with like in a possible affair or something like that, you're like, are you going to give them up? Are you going to like shove them in the water when the time is perfect? And I didn't want that for the characters in this movie. I wanted them to be like close and united and share stuff with each other.
Yeah, I think that's such a huge departure from the book, because in the book it's such a tension. They don't like each other. And I think the movie is such a people from very different walks of life are brought together as like a brother in arms in the trenches, bonding. Like we are different, but we find commonality, you know. And it's just like they sing the song together, you know, show me the way to go, and like they're all just like singing. And I don't know, it is cool because they like, you get that they're all bonded and they're on this mission. Then the shark attacks again. So the next part is basically the shark keeps attacking, and I don't have a ton of notes left, so we can wrap up here pretty quick. But I do want to say, so they have they push the boat, which is another amazing part. So Quint is like, the shark is attacking again. It's like, we're gonna head in. We didn't even talk about it. So he freaks out, remember, and he smashes the radio. Like, we are stopping the shark. But then he gets to the point where he's like, we're going home. We're going home. But he's pushing the engine super hard.
Yeah, too much.
And I got the vibe, too, that he's like, I know I should go in. I know we should give up. We should go in. We need a bigger boat. We need more crew. We need to be more prepared for this. But I want to stay. I want to get this shark. And so his response is like, he's just like pushing the boat as hard as he can. It's like, we need to go home. I'm going home, but I hope the boat breaks. So we can't.
Yes. Yep. Exactly.
It's like this, like, not like he wants it to break, but he's just like, whatever, like, if we can stay here. Very much a Moby Dick. Like, I've got to get the thing, like the thing that's going to, you chase, that's going to be your demise kind of thing.
This is my life.
And then the boat does break down, the engine blows, and they're taking on water. It blows up. The engine blows up.
Seriously.
And then I think that's when Quint goes in, he like has that moment where he looks at the life jackets, because in his story, he's like, I'm never going to wear a life jacket again. And he hands the guys life jackets. And I feel like you see Quint fully humble at this moment, because I think he's realized what he's done.
Yeah.
And then he says, what could you do? What can you do with these needles of yours?
Mm-hmm. He gives in to the technology, the modern age. He's like, at all and any cost, we will take this shark down.
And then they get out the shark cage. And then this is an interesting part too, because in the book, Hooper dies. He gets eaten by the shark.
Really?
Straight up, gets eaten by the shark.
That makes sense, honestly. It makes sense.
They say in the making of is that the shark, you remember when there is a underwater footage of a great white actually on the cage and like rolling around, it got caught up. Yep. They actually filmed that. They were trying to attract a shark, and that actually happened during that filming. So they're like, I want to use this shot. So we need to have him away, like, because he swims away, because the cage was empty at the time.
Yep.
Which is kind of odd, because I'm like, you could have said he was eaten by the shark, and that's just him afterwards, you know, or something. But
or like the shark gets out of the cage and eats him. immediately after or something like that.
So
But you think that he survived because they wanted to use that shot?
that's what they said. That's the reason they said that.
Oh, wow.
But I also think, too, I think Steven Spielberg is a good enough filmmaker that he was changing stuff from the book because he's like, I like this relationship, and I think it would have been a lot darker of an ending if Brody was alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even just Hooper popping up at the end, you know, is just like encouraging, like, we've made it. Quint, you know, R.I.P. So then, the boat really starts sinking. The shark jumps up on the boat, which is it's like, okay, this is getting really fake. I think
it's from the book.
Might be a little shark growl under under some stuff. So he attacks it. Quint falls into its mouth, basically, and he goes out fighting. Yeah. Quint's dead.
Yeah.
The boat sinks, and then we've got Brody grabs the rifle. Such a cool shot. He's on the mast as it's sinking, and he's like, "Oh, here we go!" And he shoots the tank, which they did it on MythBusters, so it won't work. Unfortunately,
won't work. Smile,
son of a. Can't say it.
Biscuit.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's another tier. So that's Jaws. So what are your kind of final thoughts just on the ending, or just like the last section of the movie in general?
It was just so fun. I said it in the beginning. It's sometimes you watch a classic and then you remember why it's a classic. It's so entertaining. It's very compelling. The storytelling is so smooth and easy. You care about the characters and you get to know the characters and a lot about them very naturally. So when you do get to the climax at the end, it's not just like, someone's probably going to survive the shark. Like, you care about Brody, you care about Hopper, you care about Quint. And I will also say that I was surprised and I was kind of happy, but mostly just surprised that that scene where the shark jumps up onto the back of the orca, there's no music.
Yes, I wrote that down too. It's like they're pretty much cut music from Hooper's death, or like when they think he's dead, when he swims off. I think they cut music there
to like
very
the
last
end
thing when they're paddling away.
Yeah, and that I thought was a really cool decision. Like really made me focus in, I guess. But such a terrific movie.
I think that's all our thoughts. I'm out of notes, and I love this movie, and I think it's all about the characters for me. I was talking to somebody about it the other day, and they were just like, yeah, but the shark looks so fake. And I don't know, to me, it's not about the shark. You know, it's like, I think it's this character interaction. And it's, let's give it a break. It's 75, you know, it's from 75, you know?
True.
Yeah. So I don't know. Andrew, why don't you take us home?
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. A little bonus episode this week for our movie talk. As always, you can find our show, weekly show, and sometimes a little bonus on Spotify or anywhere else that you might get podcasts. You can also find our YouTube full video show up on YouTube. You can see our beautiful shining faces for real time, chatting it up. Follow us on Instagram, Your Feature Presentation. You can interact with our posts there, share them, comment on them. Helps us grow the channel, helps us get a gauge on what you guys like and what you would like more of. So, thank you again. As always, go see a movie.
Sharky bells, swimming all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in the ocean's currents every day. Hey, sharky bells, diving through the spray. Oh, what fun it is to swim in the big blue bay. I didn't do it too well. The
big blue bay.
It sounded better in my head. Go see a movie.